The man Chioma had spent 6 years hating was throwing a baseball to her son. And he had absolutely no idea who she was. It was a Saturday in May. The park near their apartment in Suwon had become Jacob's favorite place since they moved to Korea 3 months ago. He owned 2 gloves and a bat he kept by the apartment door like an umbrella, and every Saturday, same time, same spot near the diamond, he threw the ball against the fence with the focused repetition of someone who had decided to master a thing through sheer volume. Chioma had gone back to the car for his favorite baseball, the one with the blue stitching. He got it at a league game and had refused to leave home without it. The ball had spent a frustrating 5 minutes wedged into the back door before her fingers finally closed around it. She straightened up, brushed her knees, and walked back toward the diamond. She heard it before she saw it. The clean crack of a ball hitting a glove. She slowed. Jacob was not throwing the ball against the fence anymore. He was standing about 20 feet away from a man in a gray athletic jacket, and the man was throwing the ball back to him with easy, measured lobs, adjusted perfectly to a child's catching range. Jacob caught one, fumbled slightly, caught it again, and laughed. The man's back was to her. Broad shoulders. Tall, dark hair with a slight wave at the nape. She knew that silhouette. She knew it the way you know a song you haven't heard in years, the recognition arriving a full second before the conscious mind catches up, landing somewhere older and deeper than thought. Her feet moved before she made the decision. Jacob. Her voice came out tight, and she cleared her throat. Jacob, come here. The man turned, and there he was. 6 years had changed him the way time changes people who have been handled gently by it, broader, more settled into his face, a faint line at the corner of each eye. He was still the most recognizable person she had ever seen. Min Sun Lee looked at her with polite, mild curiosity. He did not recognize her. The politeness was what destroyed her. She would have preferred anything else. Guilt, shame, the instinct to flee. But he looked at her with the expression of a man who had just realized he may have accidentally involved himself in a stranger's business. And that blankness was so complete, so genuine, that for one wild second she thought she had the wrong person. But she did not have the wrong person. She said. I'm sorry. He had the decency to look confused. I said you. The word came out like an accusation because it was. Her voice was shaking and she hated it for shaking. 6 years. 6 years and you're here in a park. Jacob had gone very still beside her, his baseball pressed against his chest. I think, Min Sun started carefully, with the tone of a man trying to de-escalate something he didn't understand, that you might be confusing me with someone else. I am not confusing you with anyone. She laughed, and it was a hollow sound, nothing like a laugh. I know your face. I know the way you... She stopped. She pressed her fingers to her mouth. She would not cry in this park. She refused. You left us. You left Jacob. He was only 6 months old. At his name, Jacob looked up at his mother. Then at the man. Then back at his mother. Min Sun's eyes moved to the boy. Something shifted in his face, something she couldn't name, but it passed quickly, smoothed back into careful neutrality. I don't know who you are, he said. I'm sorry. You don't know. She laughed again, that same hollow sound. Unbelievable. Truly. 6 years and you've graduated to lying to my face. Chioma. The voice came from behind her. She turned. A woman was walking across the grass toward them. She was in her late 50s and immaculately dressed. Her posture is one of someone who had never in their life doubted her right to occupy space. She was Korean, fine-featured, her hair pinned back in a severe and elegant way Chioma had seen in photographs. She had never met Lee Soo-yeon, but she knew her immediately. Min Sun's mother regarded her the way one regards an inconvenience, not with hostility exactly, but with the particular coldness of someone who had already decided the situation would be managed. I don't know what you think you're doing, Soo-yeon said, but I will ask you to calm down. You're frightening the child. My child, Chioma said. My child who is his. Ma'am. Soo-yeon's voice dropped, quiet and final. My son does not know you. Whatever grievance you believe you have, this is not the place, and he is not the person you think he is. Chioma looked at her, then looked at Min Sunday. He was watching the exchange with that same maddening careful blankness. Not cold or cruel, just genuinely, completely lost. Something about that blankness stopped her. It wasn't the blankness of a man who had been caught. It was the blankness of a man who had no idea what was happening. She gathered Jacob against her side. She looked at Min Sun one more time, really looked, past the anger, past 6 years of calcified hurt, and felt something in her chest shift, uncertain. "We're leaving," she said. She walked away without looking at Soo-yeon. Jacob was 6 months old when his father went to get milk at the supermarket and never returned. That was the story Chioma told herself for 6 years. Not because it was the full truth or she had proof, but because it was the only version of events that made the silence bearable. The idea that Min's son had looked at her one morning, at the small cluttered apartment in Lekki, at the baby sleeping in the corner with his fist pressed against his cheek, at her in her oversized house dress with spit up on the shoulder, and decided that none of it was worth staying for. That version hurt. But the alternative, that something terrible had happened to him, that he was out there somewhere, injured or lost or dead, that version destroyed her every time she let herself think it. So she stopped letting herself think it. She folded it up like a letter she couldn't bring herself to burn, tucked it somewhere deep, and kept moving forward. Because that was what you did when you had a baby and no family in the city and barely enough savings to last 3 months. You kept moving. She had met Min's son Lee in the most unremarkable way possible, at a mutual friend's birthday party in Victoria Island, Lagos. It was the kind of party where someone had rented a rooftop and bought a tray of cheap wine and called it a celebration. He was the only Korean man in the room, which was how she noticed him first. He was also the only person standing alone by the ledge looking down at the street below with the expression of someone solving a very private equation. She had walked over not because she was brave, but because she was a little bored and the wine was bad and she had already done 3 full loops of the party. "You look like you're planning to jump," she said. He turned around. He had a broad face, dark steady eyes, and the kind of jawline that should have felt intimidating but somehow didn't. "I'm not," he said. "I know," she said. "I was making conversation." He almost smiled. Almost. It's a very strange way to start a conversation. "I have very strange conversational habits," she said. Chioma. Min Sunday. They talked for 2 hours. She missed the cake cutting, but she didn't care. What she learned about him over the months that followed came in layers, the way things do when someone is both open and guarded at the same time. He was the eldest son of the Lee family, which, in Korean business circles, was a name that meant something. Lee Holdings. Hotels, logistics, pharmaceuticals, a shipping company that moved cargo across 12 ports in Southeast Asia. His father had built it. His father expected him to inherit it. His mother expected everything else. The right wife, the right image, the right life conducted at the right altitude. Min's son had fled to Lagos on the premise of overseeing a new hospitality acquisition. His parents believed it was temporary. He intended it to be permanent. She understood, in some abstract way, that his parents would not approve of her. He never said it plainly, he wasn't that kind of man, but she could read it in the careful way he changed the subject when she asked about going home, in the silence that followed every time she mentioned the word family. She understood it, but she was young and in love and convinced that love was sufficient scaffolding for everything else. They moved in together after 8 months. She got pregnant after 14. He had been so happy about the baby that she'd cried, not from sentiment, but from relief. She hadn't been sure what he'd say. He held the test like it was something holy and said, "We should get married," not as a question, as a statement of fact, as if it had always been the plan and the baby was simply accelerating the schedule. "You haven't even asked me properly," she laughed. "I'll ask you properly tonight," he said. He did, and she said yes. Jacob was born in December, fat-cheeked and furious about it, and Min's son had stood in that hospital room and wept in a way she'd never seen a man weep, quietly, thoroughly, like something in him had broken open and he wasn't interested in stopping it. He held his son with both arms and said something in Korean, soft and low, and when she asked what it meant he said, "You are exactly who I was waiting for." 4 months later, Min's son got in his car to drive to the supermarket 6 minutes from their apartment. He didn't come back. His phone rang out again and again. By the 3rd hour she was pacing. By the 6th she had called the police. By the morning she was shaking in a plastic chair at a desk while an officer with tired eyes told her there was no incident reported, no accident, nothing matching her description. It was like he had simply ceased to exist. She checked the bank account 3 days later and found it had been emptied, not drained slowly, but swept clean in a single transaction she didn't recognize. That was when the story she told herself shifted. Because grief, when it is deep enough, has to become something harder to survive. Grief becomes anger. And anger, at least, keeps you on your feet. He left. He took the money and went home. She told herself that story every morning for 6 years. And then, in a park in May, she had found him throwing a baseball to their son, and he had looked at her like a stranger. The job offer had come in March of the year Jacob turned 6. A Korean biotech firm had been headhunting her for 2 years. Chioma had always declined. But the offer now was relocation to Seoul, full package, accommodation stipend, international school enrollment covered for dependents. Her supervisor called it a once-in-a-career opportunity and looked at her meaningfully while he said it. She stared at the offer letter for 3 days. She had rebuilt herself completely in Lagos. A new apartment, a circle of friends who had held her through the worst of it. A therapist she had finally started seeing in year 2 when she realized that rage, however functional, was not the same as healing. She had a life there. A good one. But Jacob had started asking questions. Not every day, not in ways that were aggressive or demanding. He was a quiet child, thoughtful the way some children are, the kind who process things internally and only surface the conclusions. But she would catch him sometimes looking at photographs of Min's son, because she had been unable, in all her anger, to completely erase the man, and the expression on his face was one she recognized because she had worn it herself. It was the expression of someone working very hard to understand a thing that didn't make sense. She accepted the offer. She told herself it had nothing to do with Korea. She told herself that every day too. That night after the baseball incident, Chioma put Jacob to bed and then sat on her kitchen floor with a glass of water she forgot to drink and let herself do the thing she hadn't done in a very long time. She thought about Min's son without the armor. She thought about the blankness on his face. The way it hadn't shifted when she said Jacob's name. The way he had looked at her with something that was genuinely, unmistakably, concern. Not the concern of a man faking innocence. Something else. Something that looked almost like alarm. She thought about his mother appearing out of nowhere, managing the situation like a practice thing. She thought about the bank account emptied in a single transaction. She thought about a car that had driven away and never come back. Her mind, which she had kept tightly shut on certain questions for 6 years, cracked open just slightly. What if he didn't leave? She went to bed without answering it. She lay in the dark and listened to Jacob breathing through the wall and felt the question sitting on her chest like a stone. The knock at her apartment door came at 7:30 the following evening. She opened it expecting her neighbor, who sometimes brought side dishes on Sunday evenings. It was Min's son. He was alone, no security visible, though she suspected they were somewhere nearby. He was wearing a simple black jacket, his hands at his sides, and he looked at her with an expression she hadn't seen on his face in the park. He looked uncertain. "How did you find out where I live?" she said. "I have resources," he said. "I'm sorry for the intrusion. I can leave if you want." He paused, and she had the impression of someone who had rehearsed what they wanted to say and now found it insufficient. "I can't stop thinking about yesterday." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped back from the door. He came in. She put the kettle on because she needed something to do with her hands. He sat at her small kitchen table and looked around the apartment with the same attentive, quiet way she remembered, cataloging, absorbing. "Your son," he said. "Jacob." "Yes." "How old is he?" 6. Min's son was quiet. "You said 6 years." "Yes." He was quiet again. Then, "I need to tell you something. And I need you to hear it without deciding what to do with it until I've finished." She set 2 cups on the counter. "All right. 7 years ago," he said, "I was in a car accident. I was in Lagos. I know I was in Lagos because that's what my paperwork says, that's what the medical reports say. I was in a coma for 11 days. When I woke up, he stopped." He put his hands on the table, flat and deliberate, the gesture of a man managing something carefully. "When I woke up, I was already in Seoul, in my parents' house. I didn't know how I'd gotten there. I didn't know," he looked at her. "I didn't know a great many things." The kettle clicked. Chioma didn't move. "I have no memories from before the accident," he said. "My parents told me I'd been living abroad. That I'd been alone. That there was nothing to go back for." He exhaled slowly. "Yesterday was the first time in 7 years that anyone has looked at me like they knew me. The way you looked at me. And the boy." His voice didn't break, but it came very close. "He has your eyes," Chioma said quietly. "And your hands." Min's son looked at his hands on the table. "I believe you," he said. "I don't remember you, and I'm sorry. I understand that's terrible, that the forgetting might not be better than what you believed. But I believe you're telling the truth. And I need to know," he lifted his gaze. "I need to know everything." She told him. Not all of it at once. They talked for 3 hours that first night, and she kept some of it close because some of it wasn't ready to be said yet. But she told him the shape of it. The party on the rooftop. The 2 hours by the ledge. The 8 months and the proposal and the baby in December. The last morning, him in his jacket, keys in his hand, "I'll be back in 20 minutes." She told him about the police, about the bank account, about the months of fury and grief braided so tightly she couldn't tell them apart. "He swept the account," Min's son said when she got to that part. "Someone did. From my phone, probably while I was unconscious. Or after." He said it flatly without rage, but she could see the rage underneath, banked low and controlled. "Your mother appeared very quickly," Chioma said. "In the park." "She lives 10 minutes from that park." "That's not what I meant." He looked at her. "I know," he said, "what you meant." She looked at him across the table. This man who was a stranger and not a stranger, who carried the face she had spent 6 years hating in the particular way you can only hate someone you loved, and felt something she hadn't expected to feel. She felt sorry for him. Not instead of the anger. The anger was still there, present and legitimate, and she wasn't ready to put it down. But alongside it, unexpectedly, was grief on his behalf. For the 7 years he had been walking through his own life like a guest in it, untethered from everything that had actually shaped him. "Jacob asked me this morning who you were," she said. Min's son went very still. "I told him you were someone from a long time ago." She wrapped both hands around her cup. "He said you throw a good ball." The sound Min's son made was not quite a laugh. They made an arrangement. She was cautious about it, and he respected the caution without pressing. What she agreed to was this: they would see each other, carefully and incrementally, and they would try, whatever that meant. She wasn't prepared to define it further, to help him find his way back. Not back to her. She wasn't promising that. She wasn't promising anything except the door being open, and even that felt enormous. What she knew about retrograde amnesia, she had had to research quickly. It followed traumatic brain injury, erased personal memory while leaving procedural and linguistic ability intact. It could be permanent. It could recover. It was, the studies suggested, more likely to improve with familiar stimuli, sensory, emotional, contextual. The more time spent in environments that echoed the lost past, the better the chance that something would shake loose. She relayed this to him on their second meeting at a cafe near her office. He listened, nodded once, and said, "So we should try things we did before." "In theory," she said. "Then tell me what we did." She made jollof rice in her kitchen while he sat on the counter and watched, because she had told him it was one of the things they used to do, that he had been deeply, comically opinionated about her jollof rice despite having only learned to make it 6 months prior, arguing his method was better while she, a woman who had been eating it her entire life, had been forced to stand in her own kitchen and defend herself. At one point he reached over and adjusted the heat on the stove. Then looked at his own hand like it had done something without him. "What?" she said. "I don't know." He was frowning at the burner. It felt like... He shook his head. "I don't know." She turned the heat back up. He reached over and turned it back down. She stared at him. He looked faintly bewildered. "It burns at the bottom if it's too high," he said. She said nothing for a long moment. Then finally spoke. "That's what you used to say." They looked at each other. He said quietly, like he was testing the weight of it, "Chioma." Her name in his mouth, after 6 years. She turned back to the stove. "Stir it," she said, her voice perfectly level. And he did. Jacob met him on the 3rd visit. Chioma had thought carefully about how to do this. She sat with him the evening before and said, "The man from the park is coming over tomorrow. His name is Min Sunday. I knew him a long time ago, before you were born." Jacob considered this, then asked, "Is he nice?" "I think so," she said. "I'm still figuring it out." "He throws well," Jacob said and went back to his book. Min's son arrived on a Saturday morning with a baseball and the studied nonchalance of someone who was, Chioma noted privately, absolutely terrified. He crouched down to Jacob's level in the entryway with the ease of someone who had done this before, not performed ease, actual ease, instinctive, and said, "Your mother tells me you've been working on your fastball." Jacob regarded him with great seriousness. "She doesn't know what a fastball is." "Fair," Min's son said. "Show me then." They spent 2 hours in the small courtyard below the apartment complex while Chioma watched from the window with her coffee cooling in her hands. Min's son held the glove up and Jacob wound up with the gravity of a 6-year-old who had decided something was important, and threw, and the ball smacked cleanly into the leather. And Min's son said something too quiet for her to hear and Jacob erupted into the completely unself-conscious laughter of a child who had just received exactly the right praise from exactly the right person. She turned away from the window. It was on a Tuesday evening, nearly 3 weeks in, that Min's son finally went to see his mother. His parents' house was a traditional-style estate in the hills above Songbukdong, maintained with the kind of meticulous attention that signaled both wealth and a deep belief in the importance of appearances. His mother received him in the main sitting room, composed and graceful, poured tea before he had even taken his seat. "You've been spending time with that woman?" she said. "Not a question." "Her name is Chioma," he said. "Min's son." "Her name," he said, "is Chioma, and Jacob is my son." His mother set down the teapot. Her expression didn't change. That was when he knew. "How long have you known?" he said. Silence. "Mother, I protected you," she said, and her voice was controlled and certain in the way that told him she had rehearsed this, that she had spent 7 years preparing for this conversation. "You were broken. You didn't know who you were. I needed my son." His voice came out flat. "I needed the person I'd chosen. I needed the life I'd made. The life you'd made was a mistake." The warmth was gone now, and underneath it was what she actually was. Not cruel, genuinely not cruel, but certain. Absolutely, immovably certain that she knew better. That woman was not right for you. You weren't yourself when you chose her. "You mean I wasn't the person you wanted me to be?" She looked at him. "You swept the account," he said. "From my phone. Or you had someone do it. So she would think I'd left." Something moved across his mother's face. Not guilt, exactly. Something more complicated. "You would have gone back," she said quietly. "Even not knowing. If she had come looking, if she had found you, you would have gone back because that is who you are, and you would have rebuilt something out of obligation and lost everything I had built for you." "You mean the company?" "I mean your life." "They're not the same thing," he said. "I understand why you thought they were. But they're not the same thing." He stood. "I'm not asking for your understanding of this," he said. "I'm telling you that I know. And that this is happening. Chioma and Jacob are here, and I intend to." He stopped. Because what came next was not yet fully formed, was still tender and provisional, dependent on things that were not in his control. He was still fighting his own biology. Still standing in front of a locked room in his own mind, pressing his hands against it. But the room was not as solid as it had been. "I intend," he said simply, "to be present." He left without finishing his tea. Thank you for making it this far. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Tell us what you think about the story in the comments below. Min soon told Chioma about the conversation that Jacob night, sitting on her small balcony with the Seoul skyline spread below them and Jacob asleep inside. She listened without interrupting. When he was done, she was quiet for a while. "She loves you," Chioma said finally. He looked at her. "She's wrong," she continued. "About almost everything. What she did was," she exhaled. "There aren't adequate words. But she loves you. I need to say that, because you need to be able to hold both things at once, or it'll eat you." He looked at her for a long time. "You're very," he said, slowly, "something." "Something," she repeated. "I'm still working out the exact word," he said. "I think there's a version of it in Korean that doesn't translate." "Tell me the Korean one." He thought for a moment, then said a word, softly, 2 syllables, and she didn't know what it meant, but the quality of his voice when he said it told her something. "What does it mean?" she asked. He looked out at the city. "It means," he said, "a person who makes you feel like you've arrived somewhere you didn't know you were going." The city hummed below them. Inside, Jacob slept. She did not say anything. But she did not move away either. It was the smell that did it. She couldn't have predicted it. Nobody could have. The research said familiar stimuli, but it didn't say which ones, didn't say when, didn't say it would arrive not in a dramatic rush but in a quiet, ordinary moment on a weeknight in a kitchen. They had been making tea, the same motions, the same space, evening light coming through the window, and she had reached past him for the tin of tea leaves on the high shelf, and her sweater had caught on the handle of the cabinet door and she had made a small exasperated sound, and he had leaned over without thinking and unhooked it for her and laughed, and in the act of laughing had inhaled and... He stopped. She turned. He was standing in the middle of her kitchen with both hands at his sides and an expression she had never seen on his face in all these weeks. Not the careful searching, not the attentive quiet, but something blown completely open. "The soap," he said. "The lavender one." She went very still. "You've always used that soap," he said, and his voice was strange, flat with the effort of holding something enormous steady. "You keep it on the left side of the shower. Not the right." Because you said the right side is for the shampoo and everything needs to have a place." He stopped. His hands were trembling slightly. "I used to tease you about it. I called you," he closed his eyes. "I called you architect. Because you designed every room you lived in. Even the smallest one." She was trying not to cry, but she was absolutely going to. "Min's son," she said. He opened his eyes. They were bright. "I remember the hospital," he said rapidly, quietly, like he was trying to keep up with something moving fast. "The day Jacob was born. I remember how I held your hand." He put one hand over his mouth. "I remember the way Jacob cried. He had a very specific cry. Like he was offended by the fact of needing something." She laughed. And cried. Simultaneously. It was not graceful. "That's him exactly," she managed. He crossed the kitchen in 2 steps and stood in front of her, and she could feel how much he wanted to reach for her and how carefully he was restraining it, because he was still that person, still the one who held the line between what he wanted and what he'd earned, and she loved him for it and hated him for it in equal measure. "I know it's not enough," he said. "Remembering isn't the same as rebuilding. I know that. I'm not asking you to, I'm not making any claims. I just need you to know that I remember. That it was real. That you were real to me." She looked at him. 6 years. 6 years and a park and a baseball and jollof rice and a word in Korean and lavender soap and Jacob's laugh, which was his father's laugh, which she had recognized the first time she heard it and told herself it was nothing. "I know," she said. She reached out and put her hand over his. He turned his hand over and held it. Outside, the city was doing what cities do. Indifferent, enormous, lit against the dark. Inside, something that had been held in suspension for 6 years settled, very slowly, into something that wasn't yet a name. But it was a beginning. And she had never been afraid of those. Min's son left at 11. She stood in the doorway and watched him go and did not let herself read anything into the way. He paused at the top of the stairwell and looked back at her, the way you look at something you're not ready to stop seeing. Then he was gone. He drove to Songbukdong that same night. His mother was still awake. She had always kept late hours, a habit from decades of managing a household that ran on his father's schedule. She was in the sitting room when he arrived, a book open in her lap, and she looked up at him with the composed expression of someone who had been expecting this. "You spoke to her tonight," she said. "Not a question." "I did. And I'm here." He sat down across from her, not beside her, the way he usually did, but across, so she could see his face clearly and he could see hers. "I want to say something to you, and I need you to hear it the way I mean it. Not the way you'll want to interpret it." She closed the book, set it aside and folded her hands. "I know what you did," he said. "Not just the account. All of it. The doctors in Lagos who reported to you before they reported to anyone else. The paperwork that moved faster than it should have. The way I woke up already home, already surrounded by people whose version of my life was the only one I was given." He paused. "I've been going through the records. The things that didn't add up. I understand now how thoroughly it was managed." His mother said nothing. Her face gave nothing. "I'm not here to punish you," he said. "I've thought about that, and it's not what I want. You're my mother and that doesn't change. But I need you to understand something, because I think you have spent 7 years believing that what you did was a difficult decision made out of love, and that given the same circumstances you would do it again." She was quiet for a long moment before speaking. "You were broken. You didn't know your own name. If she had come, she couldn't come. She didn't have the money. She had a 6-month-old and an empty account and a police report that went nowhere." His voice stayed level. "You knew that when you made the decision. You knew exactly what you were leaving her with." The silence stretched. "She raised him alone," Min's son said. "For 6 years she raised my son alone, and she told herself I had chosen to leave, because that was the only version of events that let her keep moving. You gave her that story. You wrote it deliberately." He leaned forward slightly. "I need you to understand that I know that, and that I will not pretend otherwise, not to protect the family's image, not to protect yours, not for any reason. That part is finished." His mother's hands tightened slightly in her lap. "The only sign." "What is it you want from me?" she said finally. "I want you to meet them," he said. "Properly. Not a managed introduction, not an occasion where you've decided in advance how to receive them. I want you to sit across from Chioma the way you're sitting across from me now, and I want you to see her. And Jacob," his voice shifted, something unguarded moving through it. "He's 6 years old. He's curious and serious, and he has your stubbornness, and I only know that because I've spent 3 weeks watching him and it's already unmistakable. He is your grandson. And he doesn't know what was taken from him, but he will one day. What he believes about this family, about whether he belongs to it, that's still being decided. You have the chance to decide it correctly." His mother looked at him for a long time. There was something in her face he hadn't seen before. Not guilt, he wasn't sure she was built for guilt in the conventional sense. Something more like the expression of a person confronting the distance between what they had believed they were doing and what they had actually done. It was not comfortable. He didn't try to make it comfortable. "And if I don't," she said quietly, "then I will make very clear to everyone who asks, and eventually, people will ask, exactly what happened. Not out of spite, but because Chioma deserves for the truth to exist somewhere outside of this room." He held her gaze. "I don't want that. I don't think you do either. But I will not protect a version of events that cost her 6 years of her life." The clock on the mantelpiece marked the silence between them. Then Lee Soo-yeon, who had never in his memory backed down from anything, who had built her position in this family through absolute and graceful certainty, looked away first. "Arrange it," she said. "The meeting. I will. I make no promises about," she stopped, began again more carefully. "I will try." It was not everything. He knew that trying for his mother was not the same as changing, and that whatever meeting he arranged would require patience he wasn't sure any of them had in full supply yet. But it was something real. It was the first honest thing she had offered him in 7 years, and he recognized it for what it was. He stood, crossed the room, leaned down and kissed the top of her head, the way he had when he was small, before the weight of what he was supposed to become had settled between them. She did not pull away. "Good night," he said. "Min Sunday." Her voice stopped him at the door. Turned. She was looking at him with something he couldn't quite name. The complicated love of a person who had done a terrible thing and had not yet fully decided whether they were sorry. "He looks like your father," she said. "The boy. Around the eyes." He stood in the doorway for a moment. "I know," he said. "I noticed that too." Then he turned and left. She told Chioma the next morning on the phone, while Jacob practiced his throw in the courtyard below. She listened to the whole thing without interrupting, and when he finished she was quiet for a beat. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Tired," he said honestly. "And like something that was pressing on me is slightly less heavy." "That's as good as it gets, I think," she said. "For now." "I know," he paused. "Are you willing to meet her? If I arrange it? No pressure. No timeline. Only if you're ready." She looked out the window at Jacob, who had stopped throwing and was now examining something on the ground with the intense focus of a child. She thought about 6 years of a story she had told herself every morning. She thought about how stories, once they had served their purpose, had to be put down, not forgotten, not erased, but set aside gently, the way you set down something heavy that you had carried far enough. "Yes," she said. "When I'm ready." "Okay," he said. "There's no rush." Below, Jacob looked up at her window and held up whatever he had found, a large leaf or a stone, she couldn't tell which. He held it up with all lightening up his face. She leaned against the glass and looked. It was a stone. Smooth, dark, roughly the size of his small palm. He turned it over once in the light, satisfied, and then pocketed it with the seriousness of someone who had found exactly what they were looking for. She smiled. The city stretched out around her, wide and cold and full of everything still ahead. It was enough. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. We post new stories every week, so don't miss out on new updates. Thank you for watching.
Hi, my beautiful audience. I'm grateful for you watching our videos. Thank you to my subscribers. I really hope you enjoyed this beautiful story. Kindly share to your friends, your family who needs this message, and also tell me what we could have done differently. Bye.